Alright guys, so today I wanted to talk about a logical fallacy, and that is known as an appeal to authority. Now, basically, for starters, I'm going to explain what an appeal to authority is. So basically, an appeal to authority is when, if you're in an argument or a debate or a discussion, a rational discussion with somebody, instead of bringing up an argument, you insert an authority figure or an expert of some sort, and then you say that because this person has the same stance as you and they're knowledgeable on that topic, therefore makes you right. However, this is not the case. You see, when it comes to like a logical discussion, even the experts have to use logic, right? So, and just because an expert says something doesn't make it true. So that's basically why when you're in a discussion you must use logic and reason and evidence rather than just inserting some authority figure. Now, an example of this fallacy would be, say, if I'm in an argument with somebody over the size of the sun, and I make an argument based on like some mathematical calculation or something based on why the sun is as big as I think it is, and then my opponent argues, well, this scientist or this professor so and so says that it's this big, therefore it must be this big because he's an expert and he knows a lot more than you. That may be true, however, just because he's an expert, again, does not make them right. Now, to fix this error, a more appropriate argument would be, well, this particular scientist or this particular professor has looked through a telescope and through certain machines or devices or whatever has been able to calculate the size of the sun. That would be an example of an appropriate argument. That's valid. Alright, so Professor or Scientist so-and-so saw how big the sun is through his telescope. That's good. Professor so-and-so just says that the sun is a certain size. That's bad. That's not an argument. You have to use pure logic when in an argument. Alright? Now, with that being said, I'd like to expand on the appeal to authority. We know it works here in rational arguments, but what if we could take it beyond that? What if we could take it to the real world, say, or everyday life? So, let's provide an example. I think that it is wrong to arrest somebody for smoking marijuana. I think that is the same as kidnapping. Now, the reason why I think this, my rational argument would be that kidnapping, by definition, is the forcible limitation of movement of somebody who has not used force or initiated force to harm another individual. So someone who has not murdered, kidnapped themselves, or stolen, or raped, pretty much. So somebody who basically limiting the movement of somebody who has not done one of those things is, by definition, kidnapping. Right? Okay. So, when you arrest someone for smoking marijuana, and they haven't either murdered, stolen, raped, or themselves kidnapped, then by definition, you're kidnapping them, right? But wait. They will come in and they'll say, yeah, well, the government says it's law, and therefore it's right. Does that sound like an appeal of authority to you, or an appeal to authority to you? I think so. This, again, is another argument, I guess you could say, for the non-aggression principle, because basically saying that government, just because it says something, doesn't make it right. So, stealing, forcibly taking what somebody else has already claimed, either from nature or what they've worked hard for, pretty much, or not even hard, just worked for in some way, right? If I were to even steal a penny, that's still stealing, right? You know, we all know that. Now, if the government takes a portion of your money or your land or your productivity, it's okay now, and that's just called taxation. Does that sound like appeal to authority to you? Yeah, again, it doesn't follow the definition of stealing. I mean, yeah, you mean the government basically fits the definition of stealing. It fits the definition of kidnapping. Alright, let's change the subject. If I demand someone give me their money, they don't give it to me. I write them a letter. They still don't give it to me. I break into their house and attempt to kidnap it. They then pull out a gun and try to shoot me. So I shoot them. I'm a murderer, right? Alright, so what about when the government does it? Same thing. It's like an appeal to authority. The government can now attempt to steal, kidnap, and ultimately murder in one setting. But I can't. See, that's the thing with appeal to authority. Logic and reason and evidence falls equally on everyone. If you're smart, it means that you know a lot about the logic and the evidence. It does not mean that you yourself have any actual authority. The authority only lies within the logic, the reasoning, the evidence. Alright, other than that, no, you don't have any authority, alright? So that's pretty much, my stance on appeal to authority being expanded to everyday life. Now some people would say, oh, well, the voters all voted that this person should be taxed, or the voters may have voted that marijuana should be illegal, even though that's completely the opposite of the truth. We'll just go with it. Alright, so the voters voted that marijuana should be legal. Well, it doesn't matter. You see, if I get a number of people in a group to agree that we should kidnap someone, and we just go and kidnap them, we're gang kidnapping them. It doesn't make it better, it just means we're all criminals, right? So, if you vote that someone should be kidnapped, does that make you any better? No. If I get a group of people and we agree that we should rob one individual out of that group of people, does that somehow make it better? No. Not at all. That doesn't make it better at all, period. Right? It's still thieving, and now we're just gang thieving, and we're all robbers. So, when it comes down to it, you can't really say that anyways. And besides, the fact that voting in this country isn't even... we vote for people all the time, and they don't do what we ask them to, right? No. So, yeah, expanding on appeal of authority, just think about it, and think about how many other ways we could apply this to society and see how flawed we've been, just because an authority says something, therefore, like sheep, we go and follow it. We don't realize, no, authorities have to abide by the laws of logic and reasoning just like anyone else. That's what, quote-unquote, makes them an authority. And I think that this whole thing where only the quote-unquote experts, yes, have a right to talk, is pretty much just a way of throwing us in a cage and controlling us so that they can have unquestioned dominance over us. It's like, if you're a boxer or a martial artist, you could probably beat just about anyone up who's unarmed, right? But does that mean you don't have to follow the laws of physics when beating them up? Does that mean you can just walk past them and have them beat up? No. You still have to throw a punch or a kick or something like that, right? Obviously, you mean athletes and martial artists still have to use the laws of physics when doing what they do, despite the fact that they are professionals. It's just the same thing. So why shouldn't experts and authorities also have to abide by the laws of logic? It only makes sense. Well, thanks for watching, and Auf Wiedersehen.